From the CISO series, it's Cybersecurity Headlines.
These are the cybersecurity headlines for Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. I'm Rich Straffolino. SharePoint RCE flaws patched and exploited from China. We reported yesterday on the active attacks on newly discovered SharePoint RCE flaws known as Tool Shell. Multiple threat actors are racing to exploit these flaws, and Mandiant CTO Charles Carmichael confirmed it's seen involvement from groups operating out of China. He further said, "We fully anticipate that this trend will continue as various other threat actors, driven by diverse motivations, will leverage this exploit as well." Mandiant estimates several hundred organizations are impacted, reportedly across U.S. government agencies, educational institutions, and organizations that manage critical infrastructure, according to the Washington Post. Microsoft released emergency patches for SharePoint Server Subscription Edition and SharePoint Server 2019, with patches for SharePoint Server 2016 in the works. Dell acknowledges WorldLeaks data breach. The company disclosed the Extortion Group, a rebrand of Hunters International, breached a Customer Solutions Center platform, which is the front end it uses for commercial customer demos. However, Dell said this platform is intentionally separated from customer partner systems as well as Dell's network and is not used for the provision of services to Dell customers. It uses primarily synthetic data. Dell said it would not release details about the breach while it was still investigating. After Bleeping Computer published Dell's acknowledgement of the breach, WorldLeaks released samples of the stolen data, which appeared to be configuration and backup data. 44 million stolen from crypto exchange. The co-founders of the Indian cryptocurrency exchange, CoinDCX, confirmed that threat actors stole $44 million worth of stablecoins. This theft occurred from an internal account used for operational liquidity and did not impact user funds. The company will cover its losses from its own reserves. The company's initial investigation found the theft stemmed from unauthorized access to its account on a partner exchange. The company stated that it's performing a full investigation into the incident, but it will create a bug bounty program in response and is offering up to 25% of the recovered assets to anyone who can retrieve the pilfered goods. UK government signed strategic partnership with OpenAI. The UK government announced the deal, which will see it further work with OpenAI on AI security research, as well as looking into further AI infrastructure investments in the country. For its part, OpenAI will expand its London office and look at ways to deploy its tech stack across justice, defense, security, and education technology. At the London Tech Summit last week, the UK government announced plans to invest £1 billion in computing infrastructure for AI over the next 5 years. And now thanks to today's episode sponsor, Nudge Security. Who's using AI tools in your org? Find out today with Nudge Security. Nudge Security discovers every Gen AI tool ever used by anyone in your org, even those you've never heard of. For each tool, you'll see who introduced it, who else is using it, where it's integrated into other tools, and a vendor security profile. Visit nudgesecurity.com/AI to get your free Gen AI inventory today. That's nudgesecurity.com/AI. Arizona election officials avoided CISA after attack. On June 23rd, Arizona's Secretary of State's office became aware of a defacement attack against its election site, with candidate photos replaced with images of the late Iranian Ayatollah Khomeini. The attack impacted a legacy system with no access to voter rolls. Through its State Department of Homeland Security office, Arizona officials contacted federal agencies like the FBI about the attack, but this did not include outreach to CISA. Secretary of State Adrian Fontes said initial attempts to establish a relationship with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem earlier this year were dismissed outright. CISO for Arizona's Secretary of State, Michael Moore, clarified the state has no direct level of support from CISA since the end of 2024, saying, "Right now, in 2025, we have no federal cybersecurity advisors." Crush FTP exploited with already patched flaw. The popular file transfer company issued an advisory stating that hackers apparently reverse engineered our code and found some bug which we had already fixed. The current version of Crush FTP is not impacted. However, builds prior to July 1st, 2025 are vulnerable to an attack over HTTPS. The company said it saw threat actors beginning exploitation on July 18th, reusing scripts from previous exploits to deploy things on Crush FTP servers. Researchers at Shadow Server Foundation found over 1,000 unpatched servers still exposed online. Chinese-linked groups target African IT infrastructure. Researchers at Kaspersky found that the China-linked group APT41 was targeting an unnamed IT infrastructure company that spanned across several countries in Africa. This used a hacked SharePoint server for command and control. Once gaining access to a host, the threat actors would harvest credentials for privileged accounts and deploy Cobalt Strike. From there, they would perform further attacks on machines on the network deemed valuable after initial reconnaissance. The researchers noted that APT41 is typically not very active in Africa, and that it proved quick to adapt to the infrastructure of new targets. Muddy water makes Android sing the blues. Researchers at the firm Lookout revealed details about a new campaign by the Iranian cyber espionage group Muddy Water. This utilizes the Android-based surveillance tool DCH Spy, a tool that's been active on the platform since at least last year. Based on new malware samples, Muddy Water is deployed by posing as two spoofed VPN apps, Earth VPN and Komodo VPN, supposedly based in Romania and Canada, respectively. These are disseminated through Telegram channels to English and Farsi speakers, with lures that heavily feature anti-Iranian themes. Samples also show references to SpaceX's Starlink service, indicating that it may be a focus of the campaign as well. Once installed, DCH Spy collects account logins, contacts, SMS messages, location data, records audio, and can take photos. How can we bridge the disconnect between compliance and building meaningful resilience? The business can understand compliance, so the focus is at least understandable. But how can CISOs better communicate that there's a much wider range of risks that need to be accounted for? That's one of the segments we'll dig into on this week's episode of the CISO Series podcast. Look for the episode, We'll Worry About Recovering from the Attack Once We Ace This Audit, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have any thoughts about the news of the day or about the show in general, we'd love to hear from you. Feedback at CISOseries.com is how you get in touch. Reporting for the CISO Series, I'm Rich Straffolino, reminding you to have a super sparkly day.
Cybersecurity headlines are available every weekday. Head to CISOseries.com for the full stories behind the headlines.